Hello, 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 everyone. I hope you are all doing good today. All right, so that was a really wonderful session by Aditya. I got to learn a lot. I would like to know what did you like about that session? While you are answering that, let me share with you what I really loved. I love the Azure functions and the part where he talked about how he is using Azure functions to fake calls with Twilio. That was really interesting, right? So imagine you are in a situation where you just want to get out. You click on your watch, it fakes a call, and you can get out of the situation. That's wonderful. All right, I would like to know from you all. What do you think? What was your favorite part of that session, and what did you learn? I see a lot of people saying hello, hey, hello, Snowy Pigeon, hey, Taki Ahmed, hello, Abhijit Cheng, hello, 100 Rav, hello, Rishita, hello, Churchy, hello, Lumberjack, hey, Shivansh, hey, NVP. Wonderful. I see a lot of people have already joined in, and I am sure you all are excited to learn how you can add authentication to your application, right? Now, I have been a part of a lot of hackathons, both as a participant, a mentor, and an organizer. And one thing that I have seen people take a lot of time doing is trying to add authentication, and they try to do it from scratch. Like I have been that person as well. So I that's not an ideal way, and because we have services for almost everything, you know, why not just take advantage of that? So today what I am gonna show is how we can add authentication using auth 0 to our Next.js application. Now, before jumping into the whole session, a couple of things that I think you all should know is what is Next.js, what is auth 0, and what are we going to use today, right? So Next.js is basically a framework which is built on top of React. So if you know what React is, you are pretty good, and you won't find any problem using Next.js, right? So Next.js is built on top of React, and it makes it really easy to build applications. Auth 0 is a identity provider, right? So you don't have to create your own identity system. Auth 0 handles that for us. We just need to integrate Auth 0 in our application, and that's all. So we are going to see that how it's going to be done, right? So what we are going to use today, because it's Next.js, which is built on top of React, we are going to use Node, right? So if you're not familiar with Node, that's completely fine. Just make sure that you have Node installed on your machine, and we'll go from that. All right, so I'm going to start with sharing my screen. And oops, well, perfect. I am assuming that everyone can see my screen, and I can see a lot of responses in the chat. So I am also assuming that my audio is clear. Perfect. All right. I see yes from the folks out there. That's wonderful. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So first things first, we need to create a Next.js project. Now, while I am doing this, I'll be honest, I am just gonna focus more on the integration part, so how you can integrate Auth 0 with Next.js. But what I want from you all is to give me an idea for this app, right? We just don't want to have a login and log out stuff. We also wanted to do something, right? So give me an idea what our app should do, and just in the lines of having authentication for that. All right. While you folks are doing that, let me quickly jump into my projects directory. Now, Next.js has this really cool CLI. It's called npx, and we call it create next app. So using npx, we just run the create next app command. And what we are going to do next is just give our project a name. So let's call it next 0. Maybe let's call do it like this: localhost a, next, and Harshil, and this would create the whole project for us. For sure, it's installing all the required dependencies, and we'll come to that in a while. So see, there is a question: why are we integrating Google Auth, Firebase, or what kind of auth? So Firebase is a really good kind of alternative for this, right? But the issue with Firebase is you kind of get tied down to that particular ecosystem in some way or the other. What I like about Auth0, it just manages the authentication. So you can then use it with any other. So you can integrate in any other services. You have Auth0 running, handling the authentication. That's it. Then you can have any kind of database interacting with your application. Perfect. So we are gonna, for starters, let's just try with the simple, how do you call it? Username and password, or email and password. And then as we go along, as we build our application, we will try to integrate these services. Maybe. Let's see. Time will tell. I see another question that says, what do you think about AppWrite? What do I think about AppWrite? AppWrite is pretty cool, and I haven't tried it yet. But what I have seen till now, it looks pretty amazing to me and promising to me. I am gonna try it out soon and maybe write about it. So stay tuned for that. But you should definitely check out AppWrite, because if I'm not wrong, it takes a lot of coding away, and you can build the APIs without writing a lot of code. So I like that. I like that approach. So Auth0 is a library. Auth0 is not a library, right? So what we are gonna use today, specifically for Next.js, that's kind of an SDK, or kind of an npm package. But in general, you can use Auth0 with any programming language if you're building your application in Python, or if you're using any other JavaScript framework, maybe Angular or Vue. You can use Auth0 with that. Will we implement JWT? Not today. So for JWT, because we are just focusing on the front end of our application, we are not gonna do JWT today, right? But that's a cool thing. Maybe, huh? Let's see. Let's see if we would be able to do it. One more. This is the last question that I'm gonna take right now before I jump into the project. Can you suggest some resources to get started with Next.js? Definitely. So I found the Next.js documentation really, really helpful, and I have learned Next.js through that. So try out with that documentation. They have a very nice guide, a getting started guide, which will take you through all the concepts for Next.js. The only thing is, if you know React, you should know React before you jump into Next.js. That's it. All right, keep those questions coming in. I am gonna come back to those, but let's go ahead to our project now. LHP and see, we got our project here. That's wonderful. Let's open it in VS Code. All right, VS Code is here. Let me bring it to the screen. Okay. Ooh. Let me know if this font, if this size works for you all, or should I zoom in a bit more? Maybe a bit more. Works? Okay, perfect. All right, zoom in a bit more. How about now? This looks fine. Perfect. So let's see now how it is. Let's just try to understand the project structure first, and then we're gonna start with the implementation. So over here we see we have a couple of things that the create next app command did for us. So it created a pages directory where the code for our API goes, where the app goes. So it's just basically think of this as a wrapper. So this is gonna be the main application code, and everything that is you can see component over here, right? So it is gonna render all the components that we are gonna build. Then there is index.js, which is again the homepage for our application. Then there is the public directory where all the public assets go, like the favicon, the images that we want to add. And there's the styles directory where our CSS lives. Then you all may be familiar with git ignore. This is where we tell git not to track these things. So, like node modules, because, that would be terrible if you just push your node modules to GitHub. Then we also have environment variable files. We are going to create one today. And these files will essentially carry a lot of our credentials, our crucial information, which we don't want to share with anyone. So that's why we are adding it in git ignore as well, and a lot of other stuff. And there is package.log, package.json, which contains the information about the project, the dependencies, the scripts, and stuff like that. And there is, of course, the beautiful readme.md, which gives information about the project. Right. All right. So the first thing we want to do, and as I already mentioned earlier, we need to add the auth0 library for Next.js. Now I am using Yarn, but if you use npm, the command would be npm install instead of yarn add, right? So I'm going to do, okay, let's do this, auth0, and then it's called Next.js, and then auth0. So this is going to install the Next.js auth0 library for us, which we are going to use. And trust me, it's very fun to use because in just a few lines of code, we will have our authentication system up and running. And folks, I am still waiting for that project idea, right? So tell me, what should we build once we have that integration in place? All right, so it says we have that package installed. Let's see how it looks. We do yarn dev, and it's running. Okay, it's already up and running. So it's on localhost 3000. I'm gonna quickly copy this, come to my application, run this over here, and this is gonna run our Next.js app. So this is the default that Next.js provides, link to the documentation, where we can learn more examples, how to deploy and stuff like that. But we are not interested in this. So I'm just going to remove all this code and let's see how it looks then. Again, remember, index.js was the first page, was the default page. So whenever we go to our domain, the index.js page is going to get loaded. So let's delete everything in here. Maybe have the h1. Let's do the main tag as well. My VS Code is giving me an error. All right. So let's just say auth0 add LHT. And we don't want, or maybe let's use the same favicon and hello local hack day. And I love emojis, so I'm just going to put in a wave emoji in here. I'm going to save this. I'm going to come to the browser and you can see it has this refresh rate. So I made the change, I saved the change, and it built the site for me and it loaded the site for me in the browser. I didn't have to do anything. The server is still running and it just works out of the box. Looks pretty, right? Now, we have our application in here, which is running, which looks good, but we now want to add authentication. Now, why we want to add authentication, right? So let's just take an example of to-do app, because I remember Aditya was showing a to-do app earlier, right? So we create that API that Aditya showed us, but everyone has their own to-do list, right? And people might not want to share that to-do list. So we want to add some kind of authentication. So only maybe let's just say Rishita can see her own to-do list, or Snowy Penguin can see their own to-do list, right? So how do we do that, right? So we can secure this using something like auth 0. So we have then a login page, user logs in, and then we load all the to-do list items for that particular user. So only that user can see that to-do list. Make sense? I hope it does. So the next thing, we want to create an application on auth 0. So I already have my auth 0 account set up, right? And I'm gonna create a new application. But all right, let's do this. I'm gonna wait for a minute so that you all can create your own application. What I want to do is take questions in the time. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. I'm gonna answer that. And you can also, just create using your Google account or GitHub account. Just click on the sign up button. So just sign up with Google, sign up with GitHub, a lot of services. There are a lot of services that you can use. Click on that, sign up, and you will see something like this. Now, we have a really nice message. We can create a collaborative workspace, something like a Google Doc. Yes, you can have a collaborative workspace. So I can, invite people to a particular application, and me and my team then work together on that application on the auth 0 part as well. React plus equals next. I don't know any of these. No. No, React plus Redux is not equal to next. All right. If you don't know any of this, that's completely fine. Do you happen to know React? Just let me know that. All right. While you answer that, I'm going to show you how you can now create your application on auth 0. So you click on create app, and we're going to give this a name. Let's just say LHT app. Now, you can see that auth 0 gives us a really nice hint of what we want to do next. So it's React, right? And we are building a Next.js application, which is built on top of React. So it should be a single page app, right? So because we are, again, just to make it clear, because we are creating a single page web app, we select this option. But let's just say you are creating a native application, maybe using iOS, right? At that point of time, you gotta select native, or as someone shared, if you want to use JWT, if you are using auth 0 at the backend, then you can do regular web apps. And if you just want to have a machine to machine interaction between those applications, that's when you select this option, right? So I'm gonna go ahead, click on create. It will create a nice app for me. While it does that, let me come to the chat. And you said that you know a bit of React. That's fine. That's perfect. That's all I want to know. If you know React, you can understand Next as well. At any point, if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll be happy to answer that. And I see we have Prathamesh over here. Hey, Prathamesh, great to see you again. How are you doing, mate? Can you change application types? You can change application types. So that's possible, right? So if I go to settings over here now, there is an option. So you see application type. So I can then, change the application type from here. Can you select multiple application types? No, you cannot select multiple application types. But what you can do is you can create tenants. If I can quickly find that. All right, I cannot find that, but you can have kind of a single workspace which has applications for that same particular, project that you're working on. And I see there's a question. Again, I think Auth0 is paid. It is paid, but it has a very generous free tier, right? Let's just see if we can find the pricing page from here. No problem. Let's go to Auth0 pricing. Okay. All right. My bad. It's over here. Usually we get 7,000 active users for free and unlimited logins. That's very generous as a plan, and I think it is good enough to get started, right? But then once you start growing, then you can always have to pay, right? Because this everyone needs to survive. They need money to survive. But with 7,000 active users, I think that's gonna be more than enough, at least for our demo now. All right, let's come back to our dashboard. Now, in our dashboard, you see we have the domain, we have the client ID, the client secret. So we are gonna use all this information. And the first things we want to do is set up a callback URL. So this is the URL that auth0 is gonna use once the user logs in. That's perfect. And where we want to redirect the user when they're logged out. So for now, we just want to redirect them to the home page. So I'm gonna copy the URL for this, and this looks good for me to me right now. So again, what we did, we are routing the user once they're logged in. This is the callback URL, right? And don't worry, we are gonna handle that on the Next.js part next. And after the user logs out, we want to take them to the home page of our application. Everything over here looks good to me. Yeah, I'm not going to go into this advanced settings. I'm going to save the changes. It says the changes have been saved. That's perfect. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to create an environment variable file, right? So over here, this is going to be in the root directory, new file, and this is going to be .env.local. Now, in here, there are a couple of things that we want to add. So the first thing, or maybe let me copy it from the documentation. Come back here. All right. So you see auth secret. So this is a long secret value. This is basically a random value. So we are going to generate that using a command that they have provided in the documentation as well. But this can be anything. It can be any value over here. The base URL, so this is going to be our application's URL. Now again, see, this is local, that this file says local. This is running locally on our machine. So we are going to use localhost 3000. But if you are using a different port, maybe localhost 8000, right? Then you have to make sure that you change the port over here. This looks good. And then we need the URL of our Auth0 tenant domain, right? So let's get this from Auth0. So over here again, I'm in my application under settings. There is domain, and let's just copy paste it in here. So we got our domain. We need the client ID. Copy the client ID here quickly, and all right. Now for client secret, I am gonna take it to a different screen and add it. But before doing that, let's just see how we can generate this random string. So I'm going to come back to my terminal, and in here, I think I'll have to zoom in again a bit, paste this command. So you see what we are doing is we are creating a value which is of 32 bits. We're converting it into a string because it's a hex. So if I execute this, it generates a random value. That works fine for me. Let's see if it does not. All right, it does not matches this. Perfect. So I'm going to replace it with that. I'm going to save this. Now again, I'm just going to take it to another screen for now to quickly add my client secret. I'm going to add in here. All right. Let's bring it back. Sure. Now I cannot show you my env file, but I hope you get an idea, right? Okay, coming to the chat once again. Auth and OAuth. Hmm, I'm not exactly sure what that question means. Can you just help me provide more context over there? So again, what we are basically doing is, instead of writing the whole code from for the authentication part, we are leveraging auth0, and we are telling it to do that for us, right? So we are just creating an authentication system on top of auth0 so that we don't have to do that. How does authentication work internally? That's a good question. So how does it work? All right. So what happens is, maybe let me do this. Let me let's just build the app quickly and see the demo, and then maybe we talk about how it is working. Why two secret keys? That's a nice question. So we just used the client secret key to make sure that we are connecting to the correct auth0 application that we created, and the auth0 secret that we for which we are using the random value. This is gonna be the key that is gonna be used to encrypt the session cookie. I hope that answers your question. All right. Now, this is going to go a bit more technical on the Next.js part, but I'm going to try my best to help you understand what is going to happen. But again, if you have any questions, just let me know. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create a file which is going to handle uh, the request to all the other routes, right? For that, what I mean is, if a user, right now, if you see it's hello.js, so if I let's just see what hello.js has, so it just gives a status of 200 and it returns John Doe. So if I come over here to our application, right, if I do API and then hello, it returns the value John Doe. That's perfect. But what if we do hello world? It gives us a 4 of 4, right? Now, in this case, what we want to do is we want to create a fallback route. So if every time a user goes to API/auth, and that can be then any route, maybe hello world, hello 123 or something like that. If they go over there, we always want to take them to the login page. So this is what we are going to do now. So we are going to come back here in our API. We're going to create that fallback route. We're going to create a new file, but we are going to create this auth folder, which is going to contain all the code for authentication. And we're going to call this auth0.js. So if you see over here, the file name, it's first of all in square brackets, and then I am appending the file name with dot dot dot. So it says anything slash auth that comes in. If it does not have a route, take it to this page. So now this file is gonna handle all the code for slash auth. Now the amazing part for this is, if I'm just gonna two lines of code and that's it. These two lines of code are gonna handle a lot of things for me. So basically auth0 provides a handle auth function. So this auth0 library that we are using is providing us a handle auth function, which we are going to use in a lot of our application, in a lot of our code. Now that we have this, the next part we want to do is we want to wrap this around the provider component that auth0 this particular library basically provides. So copying, pasting some code over here and saving it over here. So we are using the user provider provider that auth0 provides, and we are wrapping our app within that. So let's just go before. If you see it, we were just returning the component, but now our component is wrapped with this provider. So what this allows us to do is it will allow us to use all the functions or all the methods that are now in this particular library in any of the pages, right? So if I now come to index.js, I can have a login component, and then I can, use the auth0 functions in here to handle that login. Church it says context API. Exactly. So that's the correct word, and that's what I was not able to remember. But yeah, that's it. So using the context API that React provides. Now again, if you are new to React, don't worry. That's completely fine. What we are doing is we are basically wrapping our whole application under the component that Auth0 is providing. I see a question, but you created a single page web app on Auth0. Yes, yes. So I have created a single page web app on Auth0. And that's what we are gonna see how it is gonna handle that. So that's a wonderful part of this, right? So let's see how it works, right? So let's just add the login button in here. Now this login button is not gonna look so good, but we'll improvise. So we are not using the image component. I'm gonna remove that, and what we are gonna use is the use user, which is provided again by auth0. Now, what we are going to do is we're going to destructure a few values. So it's going to provide us user, error, and is loading. And this is coming in from the use user. Right. Now, what we want to do is we want to create a route for our user, and we're going to have, basically a login page. But we also want, okay, let me take it slow. Let's just first create the login route. So we're gonna use the anchor tag, and then we are gonna do slash API slash auth slash login, because we are logging the user, and we just call this login. Right now, if you remember, we don't have this particular route in here. So what will happen is it will come over here to this particular file that we created. It will see what route it is, and based on that, it is going to handle it. So I'm going to save this for now. Come to our application. Let's come to the index page. Which is the login button, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on login in here. Oh no, the secret is required. We ran into an error. That's wonderful. Okay, so we did something wrong, I guess, and that's why we ran into this error. So let's try to see what is happening. So the first thing that I always do when I run into errors is start using console log. So let's do that. So I'm gonna console log the user. Now I know it's not gonna return anything right now, but let's see. If I open my DevTools, it says undefined. Let me maybe zoom in a bit. It's perfect because the user does not exist yet. So this looks good. So why are we getting this problem? I am not sure. Anyone, any idea why we are getting this problem? So if I click on login, it should take me over there, but handle auth is not handling auth. That's interesting. So maybe I'm gonna take a look at the example that I created earlier, or maybe not. Anyone, can you help me out? What is happening over here? No parenthesis. So we just do, but handle auth is a function that we want to return over here. What I'm thinking is something is incorrect in here, maybe. So we have the user provider and we are wrapping our application in that. That looks good. Interesting. Okay, so what I am gonna do is I'm gonna cheat a bit over here, folks. I kind of have created this demo earlier, so I'm just gonna probably take a look at that and try to understand what and why I ran into this problem, maybe. Or let's do this. Right now we are doing API auth login. All right, and it looks good to me. Do you folks see any stupid mistake that I might have made? Slash AVS slash auth slash login. It should come to auth 0. Should handle that. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna maybe try restarting the server. That's the dumbest idea, but sometimes it works for me. So let's refresh this. It says undefined. That's expected because we don't have a user. If I go to login, should now yes. So the only problem was we had to just restart the server. That's it. So now you see what has happened over here is we created a single page app, right? We added logging to it, but now this login is being handled by Auth0. So we are now taken to the login page that Auth0 provides. So now the user can log in, they can sign up, and then once they're logged in, they will be taken to that login, the page that we want to take them to. So let's just say test@test.com and the password can be hello@123. Okay, let's just type this once again. Okay, folks, you need to help me with this. I am gonna speak out the password out loud because this is a dummy user, but oftentimes I might forget the password, so you will have to, remember, help me remember what the password is. So hello is with a capital H, ELLO. ELLO is in the lowercase, @123, right? Sign up the user. We are sorry, something went wrong. No, let's try this once again. No. Okay. No problem. That's fine. So maybe we haven't configured things quite well in here. Let's see. So we have auth callback, which will take us in here. All right. Let's just try to refresh this. Sign up once again. Come on, I can do this. I can do this. I'm again just using the same password. No. It has some problem with my DB connection. That's interesting. I don't know what is wrong over here. It's a 400 battery question. Probably wants a valid email. That's a good question. It might want a valid email. Maybe I do Gmail. I don't know. I don't think that's the problem, but let's just try. Sign up. Ooh, yes, you are right. It probably wants a valid email. And now we have the authentication in place, right? So we can see the user here. So Auth0 created the user, and we are going to look in the Auth0 in in that database how it looks like. But we have the email. It says email is not verified. Again, this is a test user. So Auth0 send then the verification email. But because we don't have access to this, we cannot verify it. And that's why it's failed, but that's completely fine. Then there is the name of the user, the nickname, the picture. So All0 creates as a picture for us, and then the sub. So we can use this sub to identify the user uniquely. So now let's just say you want to make an API request to a protected route. So you can use this sub to identify this user uniquely. So you can use this in a way similar to an API key, but that has to be, you will have to come up with a more secure solution for this. But you can use sub to identify this user uniquely. Okay, now I'm just gonna come back to the chat. I know I've missed a couple of questions, so let me come back to the chat and maybe answer this. So I see someone said, but you created a single page web app. Yes, again, this is a single page web app, right? But uh, yes, it's a single page web application, and it is not equal to a single route application, right? So a single page web app can have multiple routes. So this is a single page web app. Again, we are that's our application is not handling authentication now. It's Auth0 that's doing all the work for us, and it's giving us the information for that. Okay, someone says that they got an error, or I got an error because I forgot to wrap the app in user provider. Okay, so they got an error, or I got an error. I don't know. It works for me, so maybe it's you who's getting an error. So here is a code for the user provider part, right? So you have to do this for underscore app.js. That's where you find it. Just gonna leave it here for a while. Okay, so now if we see what is happening is fixed by restarting the server, they say it's perfect. All right. If we come over here, it still says login while our user is already logged in, right? So what we want to do next is check if the user is logged in. If they are logged in, we want to now change this to a logout button. So let's play around a bit with this. So we know that if the user is logged in, Auth0 returns the user object, so we can take advantage of that. So over here, let's do this something like this. Uh, because we want to write a function now, we say this if user. We cannot do that. See, I haven't used React in a while, so okay, I cannot use this. That's perfect. That's not a problem. But what I can do for sure, I know, is do it over here. So I'm just gonna say if user, then we want to return something, right? What we want to return if the user is present, we want to return a logout button, right? So I'm just gonna copy this, paste it in here. Instead of login, this is logout, logout. Now another thing that I want to do is instead of saying hello local hack day, let's try to return the username. I mean the name of the user. So this was in the user object and then the name, right? And okay, let's take a look what we are doing. If it is this, we return this, perfect. If not, we return the login thing, perfect. And let's just handle the errors as well. So if error, we maybe do return in h1, let's do error.message. All right, and let's just do the loading part as well. So if it's loading, we simply return maybe in the p tag loading, right? So now if I save this, come back to our application, You can see it worked instantly. So it's hello and then the name of our user and then the logout button, right? So if I click on logout, the user gets logged out. And if you saw for a second, we had that loading screen there as well. So let's do login. Let's log in the user. Now, first test gmail.com. I hope no one has that email because they're gonna get spammed. Oh, login. Again, Auth0 is handling the login. It returns us the object. We see hello test this, and then the logout button. That's perfect, right? So it's working for us now. So we have added authentication to a single page web app. So that's nice. I like this, right? And I see a really good suggestion by Kevin. Just do user and this. Yeah. See, thank you. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. I know there are different ways that I can handle this. So what I can do is I can have even create components and then just render out those components based on these conditions. I think that's what you are suggesting. Uh, that's a good way to do it. And if I'm actually creating an application with React, that's how I do this. But just to help people understand what is happening over here, maybe let's just stick with this for a while now. And yeah, maybe we can then refactor this and make it look pretty some way or the other. All right. So, folks, remember I asked you for an idea for the app? I still haven't got that idea. Give me an idea so that because now that we have authentication in place, we can use this to create, that application. All right. While you do that, what I am going to do is I'm going to try to create a profile page for a user. So if I come back here, if we come to slash profile, it's a 404. We don't have a profile page for a user. So let's create a profile page for a user, right? Now, this is again why I love Next.js. To create a profile page, all I have to do is in the pages directory, create a page that's called profile.js. In here, let's just, copy a few of this code, or maybe, yeah, let's just copy this code. I'm here. What I'm going to do right now, we don't want this. We want to call this profile. And let's just, simply return profile page. So let's just say, hello user. And then because the profile page, they should have a logout button as well. So we call it log out. And we see that, we have a lot of information. So maybe we try to, all right. So maybe we try to also render an image for that user. So we need to now use the image component that Next.js provides. So let's just see how to do that. Maybe we just do image and it auto imports. No. That's interesting. Let's just do that. Now import image from next image. Looks good. And in here, what does image need? So it needs a source. It needs sizes. Okay, that's wonderful. Width and height. Okay, so let's just do this. For now, the source can be, I don't know, what can be the source? I don't know, maybe just a random image from the internet. I'm just gonna quickly go to the MLH's website and try to get that image. So, but if you have any image, just I would be happy to use that. Just paste that link in the chat, and we can use that image. It's always difficult to find an image. Oh, I know there was an image placeholder, right? Image placeholder. But ultimately, what we are going to do is we are going to use that image that we get from auth0. All right. I think I have the image placeholder, but does not look good. But yeah, it's fine for a use case, I guess. Wait, no. Okay. Close the quotes, and let's just give it a width of 150. I'll show the height. Now I am 95% sure that this is going to give me an error, but that's the fun. That's what I like about coding. You get an error and then you start working on that and start fixing that. So now if we come to slash profile, see, so we got an error with the image over here. It's not configured under images. All right, yeah, gotcha. All right. So you see that now what we need to do in Next.js exercise is to configure what all domains we are going to use to get those images. So, all right, I'm going to copy this, come back to the page over here. Okay. So where is next? Interesting. So we don't have that particular file, which is next.config.js, if I'm not wrong. Let's just quickly take a look at it again. Next js image config. Ooh, yes, this is the one. So we need to create a next.config.js. Let's do that. Next.config.js. And in here, we need to tell him like which are the domains that we are expecting, right? So can I come over here? Yeah, let's just use this domain. So this is going to be from Gravatar. That's nice. Paste it in here, save this, and maybe just use this image. If I can just get the full URL somehow. No, never mind. Also, we want to do right now is, what was it? Placeholder? Yes. Add it in here, save this. Now, because we are making changes to see the config file, we need to restart the server. So let's restart the server once again. All right, our server is up and running. Let's refresh this. We have the user again logged in. We come to profile, enter. Please work. Come on, come on, come on. Yay, it worked. So we see we got the hello user, the profile image, and then the logout button. That's perfect. Now if I click on the logout button over here and see what happens, it still works, right? So if you see, I didn't add the use user. Where is it? The use user method, right? And I was still able to log out. Now, because we are still using the auth logout parameter here, and because this is logout, it goes into this fallback route. It says what route it is, and based on that, it handles that. Right now, let's take a look. So now that our user is logged out, and if we go to profile, what happens? Ooh, it's interesting. we are still able to access this part, which should not have happened because now our user is logged out, right? So this is where we are going to learn now how to secure this route. Now to make sure that only this page gets loaded when the user is logged in. Now again, before coming to this, I want to check if anyone has any questions around this. Any questions till what we covered? Because we covered a lot of things, so I want to make sure that you all were able to understand and see what we did. Right, just gonna wait for a couple of minutes maybe. In the meantime, just gonna sip some water. Ooh, all right, no question. That's nice. I am assuming that then everyone is able to understand and follow me of till what we did till now. Perfect. All right. So let's come back to it and secure our profile page. Now for this, what we are gonna use is again something that Auth0 provides, which is, let's come in here. I'm gonna import something which is called with page auth required. Yes. So with page auth required. So what this will do is it will handle the authentication for the page for us. So if I come in here, so we need to now wrap our component with page route required. Let's do that. And this, save this. And now if we come to our application and go to profile, voila. So you see, we didn't have to, handle anything. We just wrapped our component under with page auth required. If the user then tried to access this, they were taken to the login screen because they were not logged in, right? Now just let's log in again.com 1 2 3 and let's see what happens. And perfect. Now we can see that the user is now in the profile page. So this is interesting, right? So what we did over here was just wrap a component and it worked out and it just handled the authentication or the uh, authorization part for us. Now because we want to render the username and that image that's coming in from Auth0, we are gonna again call the use user, and then let's just do again const user. I'm just gonna destructure user from use user, and in here we say hello user. Instead of that, maybe we do hello user dot name, and then in the source, let's try to render an image. Huh, interesting. Okay, always forget to do this. All right. So now we are in here. Now, people, you need to help me with this. Okay, not that. Huh. So how do I do this? Do I have this quotes outside? I don't think so, right? No template required. Ooh, so no template literally required. Ah, that's wonderful. See, this is what happens when you don't code for a while. So I've just got to do user dot what is it called? Picture. Perfect. It's wonderful. Thanks, Kevin. I love this. I come over here. It's gonna refresh. Oh no! Must use with and hide property or layout fill. But we did that. Oh no, we didn't. My bad. Sorry, folks. With equals to 150. But we didn't we handle that earlier? Maybe I just deleted the whole thing. That's interesting. So 150 as well. Save this. Come back over here. It's gonna auto refresh. And you see, we got the image in here. And add to config. Yes, I already added to config beforehand. So if you see, it's s.kevata.com, which is basically the domain for that image. So I already had configured that so that you don't have to do it again. But nice shout out to that. So again, if you haven't configured the domain for the image, make sure you do it in here. Now this is something that's coming in from the Next.js side, right? So you have to, whenever you are using the image component in of Next.js, you always have to configure this. Okay, let's close all these things that we don't require. So we now have the profile page, which comes with a beautiful logout button. It shows the image and the username and stuff like that. Now let's take a look for a while on the Auth0 side and see, how this data is stored in Auth0. And now I haven't done this before, but maybe let's try to, have a form or something where the user can edit their name, just the name maybe, and hopefully if we are on time, maybe also try to update the profile image. That would be cool. So in here, we see that we have uh, authentication, database. So we can create a new database. If I click on create a connection, it asks me for the name of this connection and what should be the username length we want. Do we want to disable signups for this or not, right? But we are going to use the default one. So by default, Auth0 creates this for us. We can change the password policy. So remember, I had to use an uppercase, a lowercase, a unique character and numbers. But I can always change this in here. I can also do custom database. So if I don't want to store this on Auth0, I can select this and then configure it to save it to my custom database. And in applications, I can select which all applications are using this particular database, right? So I have 3 applications. The default app with Auth0 provides us with. We created an LHD app for this particular stream. And then the Next.js example that I was playing around with. And then try connections. So we can come over here, we can try it out, see how it works. Perfect. Now if I come to social, I can create a social connection. So right now we just have, the username, basically the email and the password. But if I create a social connection, let's see, then, there are a lot of options. I mean, a lot of options. So based on your use case, you can, select which one you want. You can do Salesforce, you can do Shopify if you're building, a Shopify store. You can do DigitalOcean, you can do Slack, you can do Twitch, you can do Spotify, you can have your own as well. The most common ones that I have seen is Google and maybe Twitter. But for Twitter, I'll have to create credentials on the Twitter side as well, configure that. That's kind of a long process, which I kind of don't like. So I'm going to skip that. But right now we are just taking a tour of Auth0. So maybe we can come back to this later on. All right, what else is there? So again, I'm not going to go into the enterprise part because that's where you're going to start paying, and I don't want to do that right now. And there's passwordless, which is interesting. So it says configure passwordless like SMS login, email login. So what will happen is if I enable this, it asks from where. So we can do application name and then so basically the name of our application. Welcome to, you can then have the application name. We can change this email address that we want, and this is the body that will go in the email. And then there is the OTP that Auth0 is going to generate for us. We can set the OTP length and stuff like that. Can we see a preview maybe? No. Okay, there is a try option. Okay, let's enable it for our LHD app. Right, so let's come to try. Okay, save this. All right, now if I come to try. All right, that's not I wanted to do, so I'm gonna skip that. Anyways, so what this is gonna do is whenever a new user signs up or they want to log in, instead of entering the password, an email will be sent from Auth0. Again, this is from Auth0. We don't have to handle all this part, right? An email will be sent with some OTP, so a unique code. The user has to get that unique code, paste it in that login screen, and they can access it. And oftentimes, what happens is they can just simply click on the link. If they click on the link, they don't have to use the OTP, and they will be logged into our application. So this is, a few ways of how you can improve the user experience. I'm going to close this. Got email. If you are doing SMS, you will have to configure your Twilio SID. You see, so you will have to go to Twilio, create your application in there, and configure this. All right. And what we want to next see is the users. Yeah. So over here, you see that we have a lot of users, and this is the one that we created just now. Right. So we have the name, the email, the information of when they signed up, when they last logged in, where we are storing this information and stuff like that. This is interesting. We can see which devices they logged in, the history, can get the raw JSON information. So this is a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. Authorized application. So again, if the user used the same login with a different application, we'll get this information. So we see that we created an app that's called LHD app, and user agreed to that. So that is why we are seeing this. The permissions. So what all permissions we have given to this user? So let's just say we have an application, and let's just say for the to-do app, right? We have a paying customers, and for these paying customers, we want to enable a few more features because they are paying to us. So we can then assign them roles, and then on our code, what we can do, we can see if they have this particular role. If they have, we give them those particular features. If they don't, we don't show them those features. But what we do is we take them to maybe the upgrade page or the pricing page and stuff like that. And yeah, that's particularly what permissions and roles kind of do hand in hand. The interesting part I love about is the branding. So earlier, Let's just log out. Let's just log in again. So over here you see that it has the default branding that Auth0 has. It's using the Auth0's branding. So we can do that. So we can change and use our own branding, right? So instead of using the Auth0 icon, we can use our own application icon and make changes to that. So that's interesting. A lot of so actions is something that I really like and I enjoy using because it has flows. So what you can do is without writing a lot of code, you can have your custom, uh, workflow. So let's just say when a user logs in, what we want to do is create a flow, right? You see that this is a visualizer. So we can do this visual with a nice visualization and do what is happening. Just gonna skip this. So when the user logs in, I want to add an action. Maybe let's just browse first what are the available actions. So you see there are a lot of things. So we can you know use AWS SNS. We can maybe let's see use Playboy to send an SMS. That's perfect. Ooh, oh, all right. So there is a lot of things that we can do. But right now, let's just say we want to do, something of our own. So let's just do add action. Where was the option to create the custom one? Yeah, okay. So build custom. We call it, how do you want to say? Hmm. Yeah. Now I'm more inclined to create a Twitch pod. So whenever someone logs in, we send a message on Twitch saying, "Hey, welcome to Twitch," right? But no, let's just not do it. But yeah, you can see that there are a lot of options. So we can have someone when they just do registration, when they change password. So we can do a lot of things. So we can trigger this action based on a lot of stuff that a user do, right? So what you can do is just a crazy idea. Whenever your user signs up, and oftentimes you might have experienced this, right? uh, you get an email from that service welcoming that user and giving them some information, or sharing those resources to get started or something like that. So maybe you have this in this flow itself. Another thing you can do is if you are using now this is again for if you're actually going out and building your own product. But if you're building maybe let's just say your own product, what you can do is you can, if the user gives you the consent, you can add them to your mailing list, so you can send them those newsletters that you have. Whew, a lot of talking. All right, people, we have any questions? I want to see questions coming in. Let's see if we have any questions. I see an interesting question which I am gonna address in a while. But before that, any more questions? Hmm. How did you join MLH? That's an interesting story. So I was an APAC, a coach for the APAC region, that's Asia Pacific. Uh, MLH was very new when they joined into APAC, and I am one of the first coaches for the APAC region. So I saw that MLH is coming to APAC, and I saw that they have applications open for coaches. I'm like, yay! This seems interesting. Let's join this. Let's be a part of this program because I was always interested in doing something like that. So yeah, that's how I filled out the application, went through the interview process, and that's how I joined MLH. I know that's that's not the answer that you want to listen to. But come on, we are talking about authentication on this stream. I don't want to talk about my personal MLS journey. But I can always talk about that on Twitter if you want. Just hit me up on Twitter and I'll be happy to talk about that. And someone is asking, when did I join MLH? Let's see. I don't remember the year exactly. Maybe it was 2019. It was 2019 if I'm not wrong. Uh, I had my interviews in October, and from yeah, I think in November I signed the contract, and that's when I officially became an MLS coach. So maybe November 2019, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, I'm not good with the dates, so yeah, I might be wrong as well. But all right, coming back to our application, you folks are not giving me any ideas for this. So what I'm gonna do is try out building stuff now, try out different things, because what I am interested in is changing now the name of our user, because right now it's basically using the email address, which we don't want, right? So let's just try to do that. Now again, I haven't done that, so we'll have to go through the documentation maybe together and try to see how we can do it. So let's go to the docs, maybe the authentication API and the management API. Let's take a look at both of this at the same time. Authentication methods, okay, parameters, testing, errors, rate limiting support. There's login. Okay, there's login, logout, passwordless, change password, user profile. Yes, that's what I want to look at. So we get all the information at our domain slash user info. That's perfect. What we want to do is, ooh, interesting. So with this, what I understand is we can only get the user info. That's fine. That's fine, not a problem. But if you see, this is again a secured endpoint. We need an access token. So only when we are logged in, we will be able to access that endpoint. So if we are logged out, so let's again, I'm going to go to our application. LHD app, copy the domain, paste it in here and do user info. See, it is unauthorized. But if we log in, pest@gmail.com, hello, 123, log in. See. Ah, no, wrong email and password. HELLO @123, log in. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Perfect. All right, so we are logged in. If we refresh this, ooh, it says unauthorized as well. Wow. All right. So now I know why this is happening. It needs the access token, but we are not providing, because if we open the console logs, and I enjoy doing this, playing around with the developer tools. If you haven't, trust me, it's a lot of fun, because you get to see what is going around. So if I see in the session storage as well, we don't have the session information. What we have in here, yeah. All right. So what is happening is we don't have the session information in here, and that is why it's not able to log in. What I assumed would have happened is once we logged in, that information should be in somewhere in our cookies or local storage. Yes, you see. All right, not this. You see. So we have the app session, which is perfect. But again, this is for a local host. domain. And because we are not on, we didn't log in using this domain, it does not have that session. See, we learned together something. That's fun. Okay, now mind. And this is not the one that we want, so that's completely fine. All right, taking a look at the chat, but me says Harshil, so much to share. This, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but I am always happy to talk about anything and everything. So just hit me up on Twitter, and I think now the stream shows my Twitter handler. Hopefully somewhere, just hit me up on Twitter, and we can talk about that because I love to talk, and I think you can see from this. I love to talk. All right, coming back to this, what we want to do is we want to play around with the user. We want to update a user, right? Who? All right. So we want to update the nickname. Now we got to use patch API v2 user and then the user ID. Oh, interesting. Were we returning the user ID? I don't think so. This was an object. Picture. So see, huh? So we want to do this from the user's side. Just trying to understand how that would be possible. Anyone around here has find a solution? I think this. I think I'm on the wrong documentation page because this is from the developer side of view and not the user's point of view. So if as a developer, I have another application running which is accessed only by the developer, then they can use all this resources in here or basically all these endpoints to get those information. So that's interesting. Good to know. Let's see. I know I can do it from the database itself, but I don't want to do that. I want to play around a bit and see how we can do it without this. Custom applications, I know that. Just gonna see which application is using. It's LST app. It's perfect. User management, users. If we click on this, see what happens. Do we need to give them any permissions? Let's see. Send verification email, change password. See, we can all do this from the Auth0 dashboard behind the uh, behind the scenes. But identity, yeah. So you see, so this is this is the user ID. So is sub the user ID? Oh, that's interesting. Let's see. If I come over, where is our application? Here. Ooh, so now we have the user ID. So how many of you feel that we can use this user ID to make a call to this particular endpoint? We can always try it out, and I am here to try out things with you all and learn with you all. So yes, tell me, what do you think? Yay, thanks Pratmesh for sharing my Twitter link. So yeah, you can get me on Twitter anytime. Hit me up on Twitter, and I would be love to chat with you all. Ooh, ooh! Amazingly, it's my Twitter anniversary today. That's wonderful. See, that's why I love Twitter. All right, coming back to this. Uh, we have roughly 35 minutes, right? So what do you folks want me to do now? Do you want to do a quick revision of what we did and then maybe try out some stuff, or just try out some stuff, or maybe you have something particular in mind that you want me to do. Tell me what you want me to do now. What I can quickly show you is how we can secure API routes, right? So what we did right now was secure this profile page, but what we can do next is secure our API route. So right now, if we have this hello.js, right? So if we come over here, see, a user is logged in. If I do API slash hello, we can access this route. But now, if I log out, it will take me again to the home page. That's wonderful. And if I again do API slash hello, we can still access this, right? Now, in general scenario, what we would want to do is secure the endpoint as well. So maybe let's try to do that. So let's try to secure the hello.js endpoint. Now, we all know how beautiful the Next.js audio library is. So what we are going to do is we're going to use a function that they already have for us, which is with API auth required. I'm going to hit enter. It imports it for us. And then I also want the get session because I want to see if we have got information in the stored for the session information stored. Now export default, and we are gonna wrap this again with API auth required, and we are gonna. All right, this is wrapping clearly. Now, generally, because it's an API, what we have is an async function. So I'm gonna call this async function hello. And all right. Now, because this is not an arrow function, I have to remove the arrows from here. Yeah, looks good. Looks fine. Now, what we want to do is const. We are now destructuring or extracting the user from get session. And this we can also pass the request and the response that we are passing in from that API route. And okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna also maybe instead of this, let's try out user dot name. Save this. Now remember, we are not in any way handling edge cases. So let's come to this and see what is happening. If I refresh this, ooh, interesting. You see, because we are not authorized, we got the error. It's wonderful. So let's quickly go and log in. Okay, here, do test gmail.com. Hello, 123. Log in. Log in. Takes us in here. And if I do API hello, see, now because we are logged in, we are able to access this particular route, right? So this is how you can secure the API routes in Next.js. So we can also then modify this a bit, send more information, maybe What else do we want to send? Maybe the email. This is again going to be user dot email. Save this, come back here, refresh, and we got the email as well, right? So again, what we did, we imported with API, auth required, and get session. We then wrapped our whole function inside with API auth required. Now we are using get session because this is where the information of the user is stored, and we are just extracting the information of that user from there. And in a response, we are then sending out the username and the user email for that logged in user, right? So this is how you can also, secure your API routes. And I see a question in the chat. Let me come to that quickly. How can we join MLH? So you are now already part of the MLH community, right? So join the Discord server, participate in our hackathons, in our local hack day workshops, and you are a part of the MLH community. Now, if your question is about how you can join MLH, how you can join the MLH team, then the best place would be to keep an eye on maybe it's careers.mlh.io. Let me quickly check. So we have openings I can see for coaches as well. So go ahead, apply if you are interested in being a MLH coach, and you will go through that application process, the interview process, and trust me, the interview process is so much fun. You get to learn a lot of things as well in the whole interview process. So that's how you can join the MLH team. Okay, and right now, what else? What else do you want to do? People, what else do you want to do? So yeah, this was just a quick small example of how we can also secure our API endpoints in Next.js, right? So you have your own route. Maybe this particular route is fetching information from our to-do app, right? And we are using this to fetch information from a to-do app. So what we do is we make a request, getting the user ID. So let's just also log out the user ID just to see how it looks. User.sub, if I'm not wrong. Press this. Yes. So this is the user ID. So we can use this to make it over here. All right. I see a really interesting question in the chat. Say, I only want specific website to access my API. How can we do that? So you want specific websites to access your API. So that would go behind the scenes on how you are creating your backend, right? Now what is happening in here is this is the front end of your application. And this is not the actual backend API that we are creating. This is, this API that we are creating is going to be consumed at the backend. And generally, it's a good practice to, have your backend decoupled with your front end because it makes the process pretty much easy. In this API, what you can, in this API folder, what you can do is you can make calls to that backend API, right? But coming to your question, you will have to, add that logic to your backend. So we can come back to the question how authentication works internally. That's a good question. So what is happening? All right. So let's go back to our home page. Let's quickly log out. All right. So this is the beautiful login page, right? What happens is once the user logs in, auth 0, the request gets directed to the auth 0, where then the user logs in, they log out, whatever they want to do, maybe sign up, right? Once they log in, auth 0 does all the processing for us. It checks if the username is correct, if the password is correct, and if all this information is correct. Auth 0 sends us some information back, right? So this was a game, the user object that we used over here, right? So zero sends us this information with the use user function. It contains a lot of things. Now what we are doing is, now that we have this information, what is happening is we are checking, okay, did we get this information from auth 0? So this is a way of identifying if the user got authenticated or not, right? If the user got authenticated, we get this user object which is not undefined anymore, and then we paste out, or we uh, send out the information that we want on that page. The other thing that is happening under the hood is setting up the session information, right? So let's just log in quickly, text at the rate gmail.com, and we do hello 123, log in. All right. Now, if I come over here in application, you see inside cookies, it's not in the session storage or not in the local storage, but inside cookies, this auth 0 library is adding that app session cookie as well. So what we can do is we can use this app session cookie, right, to check again if the user is there or not. So that's what we did in for Hello.js, right? We queried the session which is coming in from here. So we queried that, we checked if that's present or not. Like, yeah, we didn't add the checks over here, but we can then extract the information of the user, then we can add the checks. If user is present, display this. If not, display an error message, right? So that's how it's working behind the scenes. So making a request to auth 0, auth 0 does the check. It checks if the user is logged in or not, if they've provided the correct information. If they have, auth 0 sends us back the information for that user. It also sends us, it also uh, adds this to the session, basically adds the cookie, which then we can also later on use in our application. This question got reminds me of uh, a really interesting resource that you should definitely check out if you are interested into JWT, authentication, and stuff like that. JWT playground. Yes. So Auth0 has created this wonderful resource to learn a lot about JWT. And again, this is going to be really useful when you are implementing this at the backend, right? So you can see, you can, do a lot of things. So you can select in here the kind of algorithm that you're using. So it's whatever algorithm you're using. You can pass on the encoding information. You can see the header. You can see the payload and stuff like that, right? What I want to do is come in here because this contains the answer that we have from Coastal Demigod. What is JWT? So JWT basically stands for JSON Web Token, and it is useful for authentication. So what is happening is we want to send some payload to our API endpoint, right? Now, if we are just sending out this payload without encrypting it, anyone can get this information. So let's just say you are sending out the email address, the name of the user, stuff like that. Now oftentimes you don't want, people don't like if their email address gets exposed, right? So what you do is you kind of use the concept of JWT, you hash it, you pass on, you sign it, you create a JWT, and where was the debugger? Okay, so if you see over here, so this is what it kind of looks like. So the first few characters is the header, which contains, what it is exactly, what kind of algorithm it is using. The next few characters, they actually contain the information. So if you see the sub, the name, and the IAT, and then this particular line of information, it contains the information around the signature. So JWT is, in a way, it's a whole different. I think we can do a whole different live stream on JWT because it's really interesting topic and a huge topic, and that's why I don't want to get into it. But you can see, it contains the header, the payload, the signature, and we can see the header typically contains the algorithm and the type. The payload contains the information, the private claims, the public claims, right? And then the signature contains the information around, how this particular signature was created. So I would say, this is a good place to play around and learn about JWT. Uh, and you can also learn a lot about JWT. You can see, how JWT is used. So once you have that JWT, you can use them in the header parameters of that API call and stuff like that. And they also explain how it is working under the hood. So you see your API, so the client makes a request, it goes to the Auth0 server, it configures that, and then the resource is written to the client, right? So I would suggest you just play around with it, try it out, and you can always learn a lot about JWT. All right, so we have a question over here. So I am at the step for adding login, and when I press it, I am getting this error. Error, type error, client ID is required. Nice error, I like that. All right, so did you create the .env.local file? And did you add the client ID, the client secret, and all those information in there? Now I cannot show you this file, but what I can do is let me quickly come to a different screen and copy this information, come in here, and let's quickly do this. All right. Oh, this should hopefully not expose my secret key. Let's see. All right. So what you have to do is you have to create a .env.local file, which should contain uh, all this information, right? Should have the auth0 secret, auth0 base URL, the issue base URL. This is what auth0 issued to us, the client ID and the client secret. Now, all this information you can find it on the auth0 dashboard. So if I come back to my auth0 dashboard, applications, all right, LHT app, and if I go to settings in here, you see we have the domain, the client ID, and the client secret. So these are the three things that we need, right? Once you have that, make sure you have the auth0 secret and you have the current base URL. What I would suggest you to do is check if you have, the correct client ID, you don't have any extra space, or any extra characters, and then close your server. So it would be Command C or Control C, right? And then restart the server. It should hopefully work for you. If not, you you may be making something, that's not, you may be having some kind of error that I would have to take a look at the code to debug. But a quick few tips is to just check the client ID is correct, the client secret is correct. This there are no typos in there. Ooh, that's completely fine. Yeah, you can always watch it back the recording, and I the demo that I created earlier, I am gonna post it on GitHub and also share it on my Twitter. So if you want to take a look at that code, you can just go ahead, take a look at it, and try it out locally on your own machine. All you would have to do is create the env.local file, configure these values, and you would be good to go. All right. Okay. We have 13 minutes. So I am gonna, stop the coding part. I'm not gonna try out new things. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take 5 minutes to do a quick revision of what we learned today. And for the rest of the 8 minutes, let's take questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll be happy to answer them. All right. So let's start from the scratch. What did we do? So we created a Next.js application using the command create next app. Then we installed the beautiful library that Auth0 has for Next.js, which is @auth0 slash Next.js hyphen Auth0. We installed that library. The next thing we did, we created .env.local, which looks like this. Right now, because we didn't have an application on Auth0, we went to Auth0, we created an application, we copied the domain, we copied the client ID, the client secret, and added in our environment variable file. We also added the callback URLs, right? So if we make changes to this callback URL, what would happen is it will take the user to that particular callback URL. In general, I always suggest to use this default callback URL unless and until you are handling a lot of the part on the of the auth on your own. And we also set up the logout URL. So this would be the place where the user would be redirected to once they are logged out. And then we just clicked on save changes. And then we came back to our application. We used the wonderful concept of context API because Auth0 provides us this provider. So we wrapped our whole app under that provider. And then we started using the library, right? So the first thing we did, we are missing something. All right, let's come to that. So before we added the code in here, what we did was we created a route /auth. So this is our website /API /auth. And after /auth, it can be anything. So what we're doing is we are creating a fallback route, which basically is just exporting the handle auth function, right? So now whoever or whatever route comes in to /API /auth, it can be anything. It checks This particular code will check, what is happening, and based on that, it will uh, render out the code or render out the page. For example, if the user is not logged in, and if we do slash API slash auth slash hello, it will take the user to the login page. The user has to log in, and then because this is not, now again the hello route is not present, it will take the user to the home page. Once we have that in place, we import the user, we extract the user, the error and is loading, and then we are basically logging the user information, which is kind of not required. But to see what is happening out there, we did that. And what we are doing is we are checking if the user is present, if the user is logged in. We want to say hello user.name, so hello user, and then we also want to provide them an option with logout. If there is an error, we just are rendering out the error message. If it's loading, maybe the internet is slow, it's gonna take a while, so we just show, that yeah, the page is loading. Just wait for a while. And if none of these conditions satisfy, right, which is if the user is not logged in, we show this page, we say hello local IT, and we then show them the login page. They click on that login page, they click on the login button, they get logged in, and then they see this wonderful page again, right? So this is what we did. The next part that we covered was create a beautiful looking profile page for our user. But the problem with this was anyone was able to access the profile page. So what we did, we created, we used the with page auth required, which is again provided by auth0. We wrapped our whole component inside that, and only what this does is if the user is authenticated, only then this page is displayed. If not, they are taken to the login page. That's wonderful, right? So over here, we didn't have to do a lot of things. This particular wrapper did the job for us. The next part that we saw was to how to secure the APIs with again auth0. Now remember, this was with page auth. Over here, we are using with API auth, right? The kind of the same process. We import that particular wrapper, we wrap our function, we also get this information from the session, and then if the user is logged in, we render out the information. If not, the code itself is gonna handle that part, and it is gonna return an error, which is you are not authorized to access this and stuff like that. Pretty neat, right? So we didn't have to we didn't have to write a lot of code. The library handled this for us. Met Mesty Pythons. Oh, I don't know how do you pronounce that. But you love JS? Nice. But in your name it's Python. Interesting. I'm curious to know what would be your take on Python versus JS. Yeah, just kidding. Never mind. Yeah, but yeah, I like JavaScript a lot. Yeah, I know I'm more of a JavaScript developer than a Python developer. Okay. Hmm. Right. So we have 5 more minutes, and I think I kind of covered the basics of what we learned today. So if you are building, if you are working on your hackathon project or any of those projects which requires an authentication, maybe just take a step back. Try to look at all the existing, providers out there and use them, because this saves a lot of time. You don't have to code a lot. don't have to worry about a lot of things, just like we saw. And oftentimes they also have very generous free tier, which works very well when you're just doing creating an MVP, right? And auth 0 also works. You can also use the libraries that they have when you're creating your backend application. So that's also wonderful. Uh, what else? Okay, 4 more minutes. I'm going to stop talking about the things that we learned, and I'm going to take any questions that you folks might have. Come on, throw some questions, people. Okay. Oh no, you just arrived. You can always watch the recordings. But I hope you were there more than enough to at least be a part of the quick revision that I did. If not, again, I would suggest you just take a look at the recording. But in short, we learned how we can add authentication to our application with just a few lines of code. Thanks for sharing. You are awesome. Thanks for being a part of this. You are awesome. You helped me a lot throughout the stream. Thank you for being a part of the stream. Okay, 3 more minutes. All right. Now I would like to know from you folks. Uh, you know, uh, how were you handling authentication if you ever tried it out, right? Because I know people used Firebase a lot in hackathons because it provides this as well, right? But apart from that, how would how would how did you handle it before? What were your go-to resource or your go-to platforms for handling this? Hmm. Someone said Shower Labs. That's wonderful. I haven't used Shower Labs, but I have heard a lot of good things about it. So that's interesting. I'm I should try it out. Yeah. But I have been using Auth0 for a while and I am kind of biased about it. But yeah, I definitely would like to give a try to Shower Labs. Is there anything particular that Shower Labs does really well that I should know of? Or should the people in the stream should know of? Thank you, Snowy Pigeon, for being again a part of the stream. I am grateful that I was able to cover a lot of these things. Ooh, someone says MySQL. Whew, wow. Okay, using MySQL to handle auth. Wow, that's crazy. That's interesting. I would be terrified of doing that because you saw that, right? I don't like to write a lot of code. And if someone else is handling stuff for me, I would always do that. But well, I would love to know how you can do it with MySQL. I use PHP with session cookies and kept has pin numbers. Yeah, I kind of did took a similar approach when I was just starting out. So it kind of was similar. I had my own database. I would then have a user ID. I would encrypt that. I would store it in the session storage. Then before ending out the page, I would see if the session storage is present and do a lot of stuff like that. It just kind of worked out. But now we have good solutions. Thanks, Harshil. Thank you for joining in. All right, people, I see I am on time. It's already 11 a.m. So for me, so thank you all for joining in. I hope now you won't be creating your own authentication system and maybe using these different services to add authentication quickly to your application. And if you try out, if you run into any questions, if you have any problems, Prathamesh shared my Twitter handler, so you can find me on Twitter somewhere on here. Hit me up on Twitter. Ask me any question that you might have, and I'll be happy to help. and have a wonderful night, day, evening after you for wherever you are. And see you all around.